Free agency steals, one of the highlights of the week. Obviously, the big names get the big money. You got some teams that are overspending, but where are some teams that really got some good value on some players maybe that didn't have to come at cost, which is very unlikely to occur in free agency? We're going to dive into it. I'm Warren Sharp, joined by Rich Rebar, Ray Summerlin. This is Sharp Football Analysis, and we are talking free agency steals. Obviously, free agency isn't over yet. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite signings thus far that we think teams didn't have to pay top dollar in order to acquire them. Toss it over to you, Rich. Who was one of the guys that stood out to you so far?
Yeah, it's tough to say you're getting a steal on day one of free agency because you're inherently spending money. But my favorite signing, I thought of the group that we talked about, was David Edwards going to the New Orleans Saints. I mean, just when you look at him from a talent perspective, he was still getting it done last year in Buffalo. He was over 80 percentile in pass block win rate and run block win rate. So he kind of gives you that dual sword. He was cheaper on a per year average than Zion Johnson was going to the Browns, an objectively worse player. And then when you compare him to some of the contracts that have gone to these top interior linemen in recent years, Aaron Banks last year was $19 million per year. We saw Jonah Jackson 2 years ago be over $17 million per year. Will Freeze last year was a lot more. And you look at what the Saints just went through, like in hell at left guard last year with Dylan Redunce, who's a free agent. Trevor Penning, who they let go in midseason, and he went over to the Chargers. Torricelli Simpkins, who Ray said isn't a real player. And when you look at this, the
all
Saints,
respect to his family, by the way. All respect. Why would you hate me like that?
But when you look at this on paper, like the Saints offensive line looks really strong. I mean, you obviously have 2 first-round tackles in Fuaga and Banks. You've got first and second round picks in McCoy and Ruiz. The whole thing is like they just got to keep these guys on the field. I mean, the Saints again were just ravaged on the offensive line last year. Their most frequently used offensive combination on the offensive line was on the field for only 16.9% of their plays. Only the Chargers were worse. And this is a 3-year running thing with them. In 2024, it was 20.3%, their highest used offensive line. It was 30th in the NFL. And in 2023, it was 25.9%. It was 24th in the NFL. They've just been snake bit by injuries. You would think like eventually like they have to run pure and you will keep these guys on the field. But I love that they had a good interior lineman. I thought this kind of offset maybe the little bit of overpay they had for Travis Etienne a little bit. And then when you look at what Tyler Shuck was able to get through in his first year in terms of having the second most often injured offensive line, handing off at the end of the year to Audric Estime, guys like Mason Timpton are starting, Kevin Austin are starting for him. I mean, the Saints are just getting more talented players, and it was a really productive end of the season in year one for Kellen Moore, considering what this team had in terms of player availability.
And I wanted to kind of expand because I'm glad you brought up Travis Etienne, because I didn't really like that signing from like a cost perspective, because Etienne just he has not been an efficient runner for 3 seasons in a row. Like and you're paying a lot of money for a guy that hasn't been an efficient runner, but if that's what you're going to do, then you have to have that offensive line in front of him be better. We know what Edwards can do. Like you said, they've spent there. And if that offensive line can get better, Etienne can be a weapon in the passing game for Tyler Shuck. They can get another receiver, and we still haven't done that. I mean, we do have Chris Olave's name showing up with the Patriots, but just before we started recording this, they signed Romeo Doubs. So what's going to happen there? So there are some questions, but now they kind of have some more of a base around Tyler Shuck, and I think that ultimately is a strong move for them. I wanted to talk a little bit about Jamel Dean, though. I wanted to throw it to you, Warren, because I know both you and Rich liked the Jamel Dean signing for the Steelers.
Yeah, I did. One quick note on the departure of Alvin Kamara and how that might help the Saints in addition to Dylan Edwards signing. I definitely think that there's some upside as it relates to what they're going to get out of production just by addition by subtraction there. I know Etienne, like you said, he's one of the worst guys. What people in New Orleans need to know is he's one of the worst in short yardage, literally one of the worst for the last 3 years. Out of 62 qualifying running backs, he ranks 61 in short yardage run, EPA per rush. In stuff rate, he ranks 52 out of 62 running backs. Not very good there. Maybe an improved offensive line could help him here in New Orleans. Obviously, it's going to help Shook as well. But yeah, as it relates to Jamel Dean for the Pittsburgh Steelers, for the last couple of years, from a betting perspective, we have focused a lot on, in terms of when we're handicapping Tampa Bay Buccaneers games, the games that Jamel Dean is not playing, because the games that Jamel Dean is not playing, which unfortunately has been enough to create decent on-off splits because he has had some injury situations. This team is significantly worse defensively. And I've got some of those splits to show you. When he has been off the field the last 2 years, this pass defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ranked dead last in EPA, dead last in passer rating allowed, 31st in both success rate and yards per attempt. When Jamel Dean was playing over the last 2 years and on the field, number 11 in EPA per attempt, number 10 in passer rating allowed, number 14 in success rate, number 12 in yards per attempt. So fringe top 10 in basically every statistic, almost worse than the NFL in every one of those key 4 statistics. So Jamel Dean is a presence, and when he wasn't there for the Bucs, it would be looking at some of the opposing wide receivers over their receiving yards, quarterbacks over their passing yards, opposing team total over, game total over. There's a lot of different ways that you could attack the absence of Jamel Dean, but his presence was measurable for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now he goes to Pittsburgh, who definitely could use that assistance. But I know you've got some other thoughts on Jamel Dean. So what are you thinking there, Ray?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great one. And then another name that you brought up, also a Steelers cornerback, Rich, is Asante Samuel, who they are bringing back after, he missed most of last year with the injury. He got in for them at the end of the season, I believe, a little bit, but he still wasn't 100%. They bring him back also on a cheap deal. And so now you've got Dean. It's not a cheap deal for Dean, but then Samuel back. If Samuel is what he was before that injury, you're looking at, that's a really good, duo for, maybe only 13 games because that's all Jamel Dean plays, but that's a really, really good duo, right, Rich?
Well, it's not even the duo. You're putting them alongside Joey Porter Jr., who the back half of the year was the best cornerback in the NFL last season. And you allow yourself to play Jalen Ramsey at free safety, which you moved him to last year, kind of like you used him as more of a queen piece on the chessboard the back half of the year. I look at the Steelers. It's funny because their additions, they also had Michael Pittman and Rico Dowdle. And objectively on paper, the Steelers roster is really good, except for one position. And we assume they're going to bring back Aaron Rodgers and kick the can, like long-term quarterback. And so they'd be like, this roster is it's a really good unit. Like this defense on paper, if they keep these guys healthy, it has potential to be just a dominant defense. I mean, some of these guys are a little long in the tooth. There is some age kind of related stuff here maybe you're concerned about, but there's a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, and the secondary is really deep right now.
And there's a lot of questions in the AFC North in general with a lot of those teams there, fluctuating, 3 new head coaches, a lot to be determined. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, from rounding out the picture, a really good roster. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens, one of the biggest things is some of the players they lost. Tyler Linderbaum at center. I know, Rich, you were talking about some of the losses for the Baltimore Ravens and the question marks that surround them. So this division is certainly wide open for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they're ready to walk into it with a quarterback who can actually have some success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, interesting to talk about when we talk about biggest free agency steals. I have to throw out Tua Tagovailoa. Is that a wild name to say? Because, we all have concerns. Warren wrote a big, long article, actually. It's up on the site. Go check it out. SharpFootballAnalysis.com about the issues with Tua Tagovailoa. But the Falcons are getting him for a vet minimum. The absolute stone cold vet minimum, because the Dolphins still owe him $56 million this year. In fact, the Dolphins will be paying Falcons quarterbacks more than the Falcons will pay Falcons quarterbacks this year. That's where we are with them. And if you're going to take a shot on Tua in a Kevin Stefanski offense who has the ability to get him the quick throws behind a better offensive line than he's played under or behind in Miami, so they can protect him, get him quick throws, get him yards after the catch, try to get Pitts involved that way, London involved that way. I don't know. We'll talk later about Jahan Dotson, maybe Jahan Dotson involved that way. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It all makes a lot of sense to me with Tua. It's not, do I think that Tua is suddenly going to be a great quarterback and the Falcons are going to be Super Bowl contenders? Probably not, but why not take a shot at it at vet minimum? Am I crazy? Like, isn't this just like a slam dunk for the Falcons?
Yeah, and so is when Kyler signs for the vet minimum too,
Sure.
it's going to be even better.
Exactly. Like it's like you got to have to, at some point you have to say, well, I don't know if Tua is very good. I don't know if Kyler is very good, but they cost me $1.3 million this year for a quarterback. I think like let's see what
even
happens.
more so. Like I said, when Kyler signs, like his upside per play is just so much greater. Even if you want to tear, like Warren's got a long article on Kyler Murray too, and this, but like if you were to tell any team that you could have Kyler Murray for the vet minimum, like right, like that's a slant. Like you
Done.
run to it.
Sold. Done. Yeah, there's a reason it didn't take very long for him to decide.
I don't disagree whatsoever. I mean, free agency to me is about the value that you're getting for the price that you're paying. And that's why I generally am against some of those top dollar deals off of, career years that are signed on day one. But I love deals like this, where it's just cheap. Like what could be worse than this? There's no real risk. And for the for the Atlanta Falcons fans now, they all hate this deal, right? They hate the signing because they saw what Tua looked like in Miami. They saw how much he fell and how worse he was in 2025 than he was in the prior few years. And he's obviously memed across the internet. And so there are reasons why you might not think that he's going to be outstanding this upcoming season. But for the price that you're spending, and with a quarterback like Michael Penix Jr., who's coming back off of an injury, it's really hard to poke too many holes in their desire to go out there and obtain a new player, especially with a coach like Kevin Stefanski, who doesn't want to come in and just punt on 2026 and say, oh, we're not going to do much here. He's looking to win. They fired their old staff. They're looking to come in here and win some games. They've got a new general manager as well. And when you look at Stefanski himself, yes, Tua doesn't really excite you, right? He's not going to really motivate your play calling senses and really have you fired up to just call plays. You're going to have to change your offense a lot to work around some of the issues that Tua has. But that being said, think about some of the quarterbacks that Kevin Stefanski has had to work with in the NFL. Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, Jeff Driscoll, Joe Flacco, PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jameis Winston, Bailey Zappi, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. All of those quarterbacks played for Kevin Stefanski in the past, started for Kevin Stefanski in the past. I think starting Tua Tagovailoa is not that much of a drop-off from most of those guys, and an improvement over some of them as well.
Yeah, the number one thing Tua has working in his favor in terms of Kevin Stefanski is he's not Deshaun Watson. And I think Kevin Stefanski, that's the number one Kevin Stefanski box. Please don't give me Deshaun Watson again. I'm speaking of the Browns. It seems mean to the Browns. Can I bring up the Browns signed Quincy Williams, linebacker? He was the 8th highest paid by average annual value linebacker that in this kind of free agency period. He was an all-pro in 2023. He's coming off a down year last year because he didn't really fit in with the defensive change under Aaron Glenn. But from 2023 to 2024, he was 12th among linebackers in stuff rate per rush defense snap. From 2020 to 2024, he allowed 5.6 yards per target in coverage. That's a good signing for the Browns. Obviously, they're not going to get JOK back. It seems like JOK's career is over. Unfortunately, what a great player he was. Just absolutely great player. So they lost Devin Bush. They had to add some linebacker. So like, that's a great signing. If we're talking about values, especially on like day one and a half of free agency, to me, that's a great signing for them.
Yesterday, I thought was very interesting too, as it relates to Sonny Styles, is what the off-ball linebackers got. Like good players. Devin Lloyd and Kobe Dean, Tremaine Edwards, you brought Quincy Williams. Like these 15 million annual was like the highest end guy. So like Sonny Styles could be like a really good player, but like I wonder how much like actual leverage you're getting in terms of, using a high, equity draft pick on him.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. I'm really looking forward to figuring out where Ryan McChrystal, our mock draft expert, our draft expert overall, will end up putting him in the final mock draft that he submits. He's one of the most accurate in the NFL. And as you guys are checking out the site, you can see his mock drafts. You can see Brendan Donahue's mock drafts and watch how they ebb and flow and change a little bit as news comes out. And it's going to be very exciting. Once free agency wraps up here in the next day or so, most of the big name players are going to be signed. It's all aboard the draft train. Everybody's going to be talking about the 2026 NFL draft up in Pittsburgh. later on in April. Really looking forward to seeing the coverage that we've got over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. Make sure that you guys are subscribed over on YouTube. Make sure that you guys are subscribed on your favorite podcasting platform. We've got many other episodes to come here. We're going to be talking about some of the best signings in free agency, some of the worst signings in free agency, some of the best team overall acquisitions that were brought in, some of the classes in this free agency that we thought teams did a great job at, and some of the things that left us scratching our heads. So make sure that you're tuned in for that. Make sure you go to sharp.football, sign up for the free newsletter, and we will see you soon.